Hey guys, this is Joseph Lucero of Powerlifting Technique. And today what we're going to talk about is how to do the Romanian deadlift. So you hear about squat, bench, and deadlift, but the Romanian deadlift is a very important tool to use into your programming, and it's especially important for powerlifters to use. So in this video, we're going to talk about what is the Romanian deadlift, aka the RDL, how do you do it, how do you perform it, what muscles are being used, and why would a powerlifter want to use this in their programming? So let's get to it. So the first thing is, what is Romanian deadlift? In powerlifting, you hear about squat, bench, and deadlift, but the Romanian deadlift has a very important influence on your powerlifting success because it trains your hips from a different type of action. The Romanian deadlift is a variation of the deadlift, but instead of the hips going up and down, they're actually going to go forwards and backwards. So while we answer the question, what is a Romanian deadlift, we also need to talk about how do you perform it. So right here, you're going to see me actually perform the Romanian deadlift. And what I'm doing right here is I'm making sure that when I perform the action of the RDL, my hips go backwards and forwards. Backwards and forwards. Now, when I do that, I more so isolate my hip joint. So now what's going to happen is I'm training my glutes and my hamstrings. Yes, I'm bending my knees slightly to accommodate my back positioning and things like that. But because I'm going forwards and backwards, I'm putting more pressure on my glutes and hamstrings. Now, you're about to see this right here. Here is me actually performing the deadlift. But instead of my hips going backwards and forwards, they go down and backwards, up and forwards. So my hips don't necessarily go back and forward in a horizontal action. They also go in a vertical action too. So there's that leg drive. So after having seen me perform this movement, you'll understand that although they are a deadlift where you pull the weight off the floor, the actions of the hip is what changes the muscles being used. So the Romanian deadlift is going to be glutes and hamstrings. So your posterior chain. Now, a normal deadlift would also be glutes and hamstrings, but it will also be quadriceps as well, because you're getting that leg drive and pushing the weight on the floor. Now, to talk more about the Romanian deadlift in the form, I'm going to go back to a video of me performing the RDL, but now what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to show you guys a big focus on my hip path. So when you watch the video right here, I'm letting my hips go forwards and backwards. And another thing about my form is I'm making sure that I'm getting the weight as close to me as possible. Sometimes people will let the weight go in front of them. And what happens is if you let the weight get away from your center of gravity and the weight goes away from your body, then in that position right there, you're putting a lot of strain on the low back. So make sure when you perform the RDL that you're keeping the weight close to your body and you're really emphasizing your hips going backwards and going forwards. So, some other variations of the Romanian deadlift, you could use dumbbells. You could also use a trap bar. You could also do a single leg version as well. The single leg is a great opportunity for not just people who are strength athletes, but also traditional athletes as well. Because if you think about it, in a traditional sport, football, volleyball, hockey, soccer, etc., you're running one leg at a time. So doing a single leg version of this would help you improve your balance, your stability, and building that posterior chain. There's tons of different variations you can use. And for people who struggle to maintain their center of gravity, they could also work on the dumbbell RDL, which is an opportunity to where with a Romanian deadlift, the bar stays in front. But if you use dumbbells, you can pull your weight beside you a bit more. And that could be very helpful for you if you struggle with low back pain or the mechanics of the deadlift as well. So why would someone want to use this movement, especially if they're a powerlifter? So when you think about the squat, the bench, the deadlift, one of the biggest issues I see as a coach is hip development. A lot of athletes have a lack of hip strength. And with the RDL, because it exaggerates the hip joint going forwards and backwards, now you're isolating that joint more, you're isolating that muscle more. It gets to grow, it gets to develop, and it gets to get stronger, especially in that position as well when you're bent over and you're lost to the leg drive you might want for a squat or a deadlift. So what I love about the RDL for powerlifters is that it isolates the glutes a bit more. It does work your hamstrings too, but it's training these muscles that powerlifters typically don't isolate. And another thing too about the RDL is people will sometimes say, oh, my low back aches after an RDL, or it gets sore after an RDL. It could be for a couple reasons. It could be that maybe you have a longer torso, so that lever distance from your hip joint to the top of your head might be longer, so you lean forward more. You could have a weak core, but also just because you have a sore or achy low back doesn't necessarily mean that's a bad thing per se. As long as you don't have pain, that's a great thing. But an RDL almost looks like, in a way, a stiff leg deadlift. And some of us, when we get into competition, powerlifters or even strongmen, our legs might be so fatigued from competition, our knees lock out first. So then we have to really rely on the hip joint and low back to fight through and muscle up that weight. So an RDL almost is like a preventative action towards developing a stronger and more capable deadlift, and for people to strengthen their glutes, their hamstrings, and their low back as well, aka the erector spinae and things like that. So with all that being said, I hope that you've latched on to something from this video. Now, here's a little bonus tip. Since you stayed so long in this video, I'm going to tell you how to program the RDL. The RDL, whether it's a dumbbell, a trap bar, a single leg one, I would put it on your squat day at the tail end of the workout. So let's say you did your squat and then you did your back down sets, a lighter submaximal weight to work on speed and mechanics. Once you've done all that, go into your RDL. And here's my recommendation. You can go into, and I've done this with a lot of people, you can go into 2 sets of 10, 2 sets of 8, work on tempo, 3 seconds down, 3 seconds up, just to exaggerate the muscle anatomy. You can work into maybe strength prescription too, where you go 3 sets of 6. But usually what happens with me is I'll go 2 sets of 10 or 2 sets of 8. I'll use dumbbells just to help give them a chance to take away some low back strain. And then when they're in their strength block, I'll go 3 sets of 6. And then when they're in their power and championship block, getting ready for a peak effort, I'll switch it from 3 sets of 6 to 6 sets of 3. So it's multiple sets of less weight. I keep the weight low too. And I tell them to practice their explosiveness with their hip action, because I think that is conducive and helpful for when they need that hip action for a stronger deadlift on another day. So again, when would I program it? I would program it on my squat day as a secondary deadlift version for my main deadlift day that would happen 2 to 3 days after the fact. So again, hopefully you like this video. Hopefully you learned some things. If you have questions, concerns, leave a comment below. Let's talk about it. Let's thrive through the comments, because those are sometimes the topics that we make our next videos about. Like the channel, subscribe, let other people see this video as well. And hopefully you've learned something today, and hopefully we'll also catch you next time.